Hello, good morning. Mostly good morning, I assume at this time, but afternoon and evening, colleagues, in case if you're joining from locations that doesn't have a morning, including us today. We are starting our webinar, the second webinar of the day for global disposal services, which is one of the recommended and endorsed global shared services by the UNSDG Business Innovation Group for scaling and use by all of the UNSDG entities at the country level. The objective of these webinars are to provide basically more and more information for the field so that colleagues at the country office from different agencies have a better understanding of what are the GSS or global shared services that the UNSDG Business Innovation Group is working on, and they are prioritizing them for utilization or use at the country level, regional level, as well as at HQs. And colleagues may have basically questions about how to utilize these services that ranges from, let's say, administrative services to finance, payroll, payment. And today, the one that we have in focus is the disposal of assets. The service today is presented and offered by UNHCR as a global service. And we have the pleasure of being joined by Dominic Grace, the Deputy Director of Administration and Financial Management in UNHCR. Dominic is also head of the Fleet and Mobility and a lot of other basically initiatives that's in UNHCR, and beyond that, a key contributor for the reform of the business operations from its inception. And we also have Israel Carizales, and he is the head of the Global Disposal Service for UNHCR, and a key basically guru of the disposal of assets globally. We had a similar webinar in the morning, New York time, with the other time zones, and it's a replication of this, but there were some questions and answers that we had. We'll bring some of those questions that we feel it would be useful for you to know as well, and the team will respond to. And otherwise, you will have an opportunity to raise your own questions either in the Q&A tab of this webinar, or you can raise your hand and we can activate your mic and camera so that you can come in and ask your question. So with that, let's jump straight into the session and handing over the session to Dominic and Israel.
Great, thank you, Zamir, and hello, colleagues. Welcome to this session. Really glad that you could make it. I think that the auctioning service, which is very mature, it's over 10 years old, and already serves probably, I'd imagine, probably about 80% of the UN family. I don't think there's a time where this is more relevant, in the sense that in all agencies, operations, there are assets, and these assets have got capital value locked into them. And using the auctioning service, which is very sort of tried and tested and proven over the years, it's a fast way of unlocking capital that is in these assets. So if you're looking for some fungibility, some sort of unearmarked funds in your organization at the headquarters level, at the field level, if you, like the majority of UN organizations, have assets that are potentially not being used, if they're sitting in warehouses, if they're sitting in parking lots, not being used, this is liquid cash, and you can use this global disposal service to extract, essentially to sell these assets and create a revenue stream for you and your operations to keep things going during these very financially austere times. So really today we're here, we're going to fairly quickly go through the presentation and overview this service. I'm sure a lot of you are already familiar with it and have used it, but we'll quickly go through the service and the offering, and then we'll open up for Q&A. So maybe we can just jump straight to the table of contents. during an aircraft landing. I don't know about the rest of you. We can't sell aircraft. Let me be upfront about this, or maybe we can. Okay, so today we will talk about the opportunity. What is the opportunity presenting itself here? We'll talk about GDS, the Global Disposal Auctioning Services, and a little bit about its reach, its outreach, and its current delivery capacity. We'll talk about how our client agencies rate us, and talk a little bit about some of their testimonials from the field, of course. We'll talk about money. You know, what is the cost of participating in an auction? What sort of overheads are you likely to pay? And we're very, very transparent in terms of the costing element of this. This is critical. Financial transparency is critical. And then what type of savings you can get. And then we'll do AOB and Q&A, and just hear from you what your experiences are with GDS already, or any questions you have regarding how to sign up to them. Okay, so this is the opportunity. So the challenge that almost every agency faces, every organization faces, is three at least. First of all, there are assets sitting in offices, sitting in warehouses, sitting in parking lots, and storage typically costs money, or it can cost direct money if you're paying for warehouse fee, or it can cost opportunity lost. You know, you might want to be storing something in that warehouse or office that's much more high turnover and much more usable. And of course, there's the depreciation. Every day that passes, your asset gets a little bit less valuable. So the quicker you sell it, if you're not using it, the quicker you sell it, the better. The second challenge that we have is, of course, environmental risks. So there's many running old vehicles, running old generators, etc., is not particularly great for the environment, because if you can sell an older asset and buy a new, more fuel efficient asset, or if you're buying a generator that's more fuel efficient and reduces the amount of CO2 and the amount of fuel it uses, then it's less of an environmental risk. And then thirdly, and very importantly, every single country, and even sometimes every single province in every single country, has its own unique profile, and selling assets in many of the operations where we work in can be a risk, in the sense that there's governmental involvement. The government has to issue permits for and agree on running auctions. If they don't agree on running auctions, which we've had cases where they have not agreed, and then they find out you're doing an auction, you know, that you have a big reputational issue there. And of course, they're also involved in the process of importing, exporting, registering assets. So this is both from the national government in the country where the auction is taking place, but also international donors like the US. If you put an asset, if you sell an asset in a particular country and it's funded by US money, you have to know how to deal with that, because there's a whole range of sanctions. There's a whole range of issues with dual use items that could be used for civilian purposes, but they can also be used for military purposes. So if these things switch hands and the relevant authorities are not aware of that, you can get yourself into very hot political water. So we have over 10 years of doing this, and we know the terrain and you know, how to operate in these environments. So in a nutshell, the UN Global Auction and Disposal Services has been running over 10 years, since 2014. This was something that was established after UNHCR started its fleet leasing business, and it's been running, for over 10 years. We've done over 1,000 sale events. These are actual auctions held in countries where we have a yard, and we have an auctioneer, and we have public invited, but we also do some online events as well. But over 1,000 events has really helped us and built our experience and robustness in this area across, as you see, 130 countries. And then the overall rating from our clients, and we do an assessment after every single auction. As you can see, it's 4.6 out of 5. So that's a very positive experience people have when they auction their things through GDS. And to date, we've brought revenue of over $300 million, which is nearly a third of $1 billion we brought in. So it's a very large, mature, and I'd say well-oiled service, which is experienced across all countries, all settings, and the majority of UN agencies as well. As you can see, we have over 28 UN agencies or entities who have used us and who've partnered with us, and typically we have a service level agreement signed in order to enter into these auctions. And then very importantly, as I mentioned before, you do need to comply with local regulations on auctions. Governments, you know, the relationship with the governments can get very difficult if you don't have them on board as you move forward with an auction, if you don't comply to the local regulations. The other thing that's very important is the financial and legal risks. If you sell something that you know, maybe wasn't properly registered, if there's a case where money is not given, you know, you're selling something, but then no one's, the buyer isn't giving the money or the auctioneer isn't surrendering the money. We've been through all of these scenarios and we know how to deal with these, and we've been troubleshooting over the years, and now we don't have any problems with those, but we do have a strategy of dealing with those financial and legal risks. And then finally, again, you know, given our 10 plus years and working with, you know, over 28 different agencies and entities, every agency has got a different kind of profile. They've got different assets that they want to focus on. Some are selling trucks, other ones are selling, you know, air conditioning equipment. So different profiles, different volumes. And it's that familiarity that we have with the different agencies that allows us to kind of tailor the services to them. So as you can see in the blue box, this is a prioritized UN global shared service. This is part of the UN efficiency agenda, and this is a very good streamlined way, as I said, to manage your assets and to realize revenue from selling your assets. And it's one of the key high impact common services to the UN, according to the BOSS, the Business Operations Strategy. Okay, so with that 10,000 foot introduction to the global disposal services, I'll hand over to Israel to walk you through the details. Thanks.
Thank you, Dominic. Thank you. Do you hear me well, everyone? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. Excellent. So yeah, based after what Dominic gave a very, very clear, nice introduction. Thank you, Dominic. This is a service that we actually started very early 2013 and officially 2014. And back then we were working with Excel files and carrying papers, carrying cameras, etc. And it has become a very much digital solution nowadays. We have thousands of documents that we have archived because of auction, and not only auction, but legal requirements in different countries. We have 24/7 online support. We do online auctions since I think it was 2019 already. So we've been doing that for a while. We have our auction events calendar, and that is in our homepage. That you saw that on the very first page of the presentation. We do client surveys, and this is not for the buyers, but this is for our client agencies, just to see where we need to improve our service and where is the area that we're doing well. If you remember last slide, Dominic was mentioning 4.6 out of 5, and to that number, I can actually say that most of the requirements that we are asked to improve is to have more auctions. So we're being asked to have more frequent events, and this is something that we're trying to do. But of course, it's a limitation on time. But we're doing right now. I think this year we're gonna reach 190 auctions. So it keeps growing every year. We have the online asset catalog. We do on-demand reports to our client agencies, and that includes those efficiency gains that I know Samir is waiting for this year's totals. And we also have an online client database of more than 2.7 million verified clients. And this is something that we've gathered throughout the years. And of course, it's all different countries. So this is something that gives us a very, very solid platform to be predictable, efficient, and actually transparent, which is something that we aim for. On our online auctions, this is something we have been using lately to reinforce the disposals that we do on the ground. And this is, I will explain this in a couple of slides. We have different methods for disposing of assets, for auctioning assets. And you see here on the lower right, the client satisfaction survey. We're actually doing pretty well, and this is from all our client agencies, including those agencies that we do not have a global SLA. So this is the whole UN population. And we have on several countries, we have local presence. That means that we know the local regulations. We know what you need to be compliant. There is a significant amount of deviations in all these countries that we do auctions. And we have to learn the hard way that if you don't comply, if you don't have all the documentation, 80% of the countries where the UN is based, they require physical presence and physical processing of documentation on the ground. So that means that if you're doing something that is, for example, online and you don't have anybody on the ground, then you're up for trouble. You need to have that. Many countries will require that you have a local appointed official by the government, whether that is a bailiff, a lawyer, or an auctioneer, to verify the process, because these documents are stored and they are reported as well to the tax revenue authorities. So this is something that you cannot do it if you don't have feet on the ground. And we have all this knowledge that we've gathered throughout the years. Our team has been everywhere, basically everywhere. And what we do is we try to prioritize public auction. First, because we cannot escape the fact that we need someone on the ground. So if we're already on the ground and we are having the viewing of the assets, we're having the registration, the deposits, etc., we know that public auction brings much more revenue than all the other methods. Seal bid, and this is something that we also do, but it brings less revenue, and the one with the lowest revenue is the online auction. And we know this because we have hundreds of auctions that we've done online. So now we know that what we need a combination of all these resources. So we use online as a support for our public auctions, and this has proven to be the best method to dispose of assets. Now, another thing is that many countries, you cannot cut intermediary middle hands on the ground. There are local requirements that demand that you have a local auctioneer. So if you're trying to do something and you don't have someone on the ground, then you're looking for trouble. The other part is that even if you do an online auction, clients will want to see the assets. So that means that you need to rent a yard, you need to rent security, you need to show the vehicles, you need to have registration, etc. So you cannot really escape that part. And this, we know that this is a large burden for different operations. And this is where we come in, because we take care of all the logistics. I will explain this a little bit further down in a couple of slides. But it is important that we create that separation between the buyer and the selling agency. So we take care of everything in between. Basically, your agency comes, they leave the assets with the paperwork, and the next thing they know, they will be getting the money in the bank. This is the other point, money. Most of the countries where we are, it is difficult to manage international transactions. partly because of the exchange rate, but it's also very high commissions. So if you do an online auction and you gather your money in headquarters, sending that back to the field, that's going to cost you. So what we do is we do the money collection on the ground. All the transactions are there. We ask our client agencies, where do we deposit the money locally, and then we put it in the bank. So they don't need to do this movement of funds, but they will get the money where they need it and where they need to reinvest it in that operation. And let me go to the next slide. How do we do this? Is basically we identify all of the assets that we have due for disposal. So a good example is that next month, during the month of October, we start mapping all of the assets that we have around the world. Where do we plan, for example, to close offices? And this is something that has unfortunately become more and more recurrent in the UN environment. We need to know what is going to be disposed, when it is going to be disposed, so that we can put that in a global plan for all the agencies. So if you're one of our client agencies, most probably you will be sending us this disposal plan for next year. We will include it in our plan. So if you see in here, for example, some of the middle-sized bubbles that are here in West Africa, those with other assets from other agencies, those might become larger bubbles. So that means that we will have more assets and then we can organize more options. And this is something that gives us that predictability and the possibility to plan ahead. And this is because what I mentioned earlier, you need to have people on the ground, contracts on the ground. So that will give us time to plan the procurement, to get contracts with auctioneers in order to be on time. Now, on the next part is what it all entails is that our solution, compared to other alternatives that you might find out there, we have the end-to-end solution. So we will cover everything. Documentation, we will look for the auction site. We arrange the transportation. If you need our help to arrange transportation, we will help you with that. We take care of all the advertisement, the security, the mission travel. So that is all part of the commission that we're charging, which will come in a couple of slides. And so I will show you a video in here. And this is one of my all-time favorite videos because it's super simple, straight, and gets to the point. What we manage during the preparation of the auction is the site logistics, the access management, the registration, participants, collection, participation, crowd control, recorder awarded bids, issuance of bill of sale. This is also a tricky part because most of the countries where we operate, I would say from what we've gathered is 80% of them, you need to have someone on the ground to issue these papers in a hard copy. You cannot do digital copies because many of those countries will not accept them. You need to have a paper in your hand that is signed by the buyer, probably with a copy of the ID. So this is something we take care of all of this. If you would be doing this on your own or you would be doing this online, then you still need to have someone to do that. Once we have all the vehicles or the assets on the yard, we do the tax estimation by the authorities so that the buyers know how much they're going to be paying for that specific item. So they know how much they can bid, how much they afford to bid. And once all of this is completed, we have the payment in full, we have the documentation that the buyer has changed the property, paid the duties, then we release those items to the buyer. And this is, again, part of what we do. Let me now show you the video. It's going to take 1 minute for me to show that. And now I have activated the sound. You can see the screen, right? Good. Yeah. Then I'll put the video.
Land Cruiser Station wagon. Lot number 9. Okay, 10 million. 11. 13. 13, 14. 14 million. 19. 22. 24. 25. 26. 30.
Excellent. So this is the video. I'm gonna take the opportunity as well to show you the web, our homepage or landing page. What I was talking about earlier is that we are going to have all of our options published here, and this is being updated frequently. So you can see in here an option in Cameroon, 29th of November, that's the next one. You would have Tanzania in October, November. So whenever you need to participate in one of our options, you can go to this, our homepage. You can check the upcoming options and register. Now, it is important to detail and to clarify that this is for agencies that want to sell assets. This is not for agencies or individuals who want to buy in one of our options. If you want to buy in one of our options, then you would need to register as any other buyer and to bid as any other buyer. So now let me go back then to the presentation that is here. Good. So what we're charging now is 8% of the gross, and this includes everything that I've spoken about earlier, all the operational support, so basically all the infrastructure that is behind the services. So all the activities that we take care of are covered by this. And on top of that, it is also covering operational costs. So it will cover all the different expenses that we have for a specific disposal. Yard, security, advertisement, auction event. We do the loading, the cleaning. If there's mechanical repairs to be done, we'll take care of it. Of course, there is a limitation. We're not going to change a gearbox or axles on the car, but we do repair. It might be a fuel pump or it might be the battery, just to make sure that the vehicle is running. We know from experience that the investment on this will come back on an increased price, and so this is everything that we're covering. And what we're trying to achieve is, of course, we're only covering our actual costs. And what we're trying to achieve in the next coming years is to reduce this fee down to 5 or 6%. And this is something that already for next year, we're looking into a reduction for those agencies whom we have a global SLA signed with. So there will be an additional reduction on this 8% for those agencies that have a global SLA. And these are some of the inputs that we have received throughout the years from different agencies. And I think I will show you in here as well. You see those feedbacks. This is something that actually is a testament of the quality of the service that we're giving. Right now, we have 10 agencies signed up. We actually started back in 2013 giving service to other agencies, and those were continued. I think the first one we started serving was WFP, who was one of our first clients. Then it followed UNFPA, and we started establishing global SLAs with agencies. The first one as well signed was WFP, which we've sold several millions for in many years. Then it was followed by FAO, OCHA, IOM, UNFPA, WHO, UNDCO, ILO, lately we had UNAIDS, and we're in the process of signing another agency. So I think this is something that it is getting us to align to UNHCR and to actually a shared service, something that is efficient, that can be used by all of the other agencies, and that is a proven method. Now, I think we can start the Q&A session, and I believe that Samir, you want to moderate this session, right?
Yes, and thank you, Israel and Dominic, for your presentation. Just before I open the session for Q&A, we have one of the clients of the Global Disposal Services here. I just wanted to recognize that we have Ani Muchai with us. Ani, if you are able to come in and turn your camera on if possible. Ani is the Chief of Operations for a resident coordinator system, and I believe DTO RCS is your most recent client, having signed the global agreement for disposal services. So we also know that you had a dedicated webinar, but I wanted to give an opportunity for Ani to say a few words that what made her basically justify having global disposal agreement signed, and it's not easy. Yeah, go ahead, Ani.
Thank you, Zamir, for putting me on the spot. Good morning, good evening, everyone, from wherever you are. Thanks a lot, Dominic and Israel. Indeed, DTO did sign the global agreement with UNHCR in March of this year. After, we went through some discussions, some back and forth. The RC system, as most of you know, the resident coordinator system, and that's coordinated via the Development Coordination Office in New York, is only about 6 years old, going on to 7 years old. And of course, we started realizing or learning that there are a number of assets, inventory items that need to be disposed. These offices are distributed across, 132 resident coordinator offices across the world in different countries, and we have regional offices as well. So since then, and thanks to collaboration with our global disposal colleagues, Israel, we've been able to sign letters of agreement with some of the resident coordinator offices. As a matter of fact, we had a successful, almost concluding auction in one of the countries in Africa. It was a huge one. It's very successful. We very much appreciated that process. Right now, I think we have about 4 countries in the pipeline, also in Africa, that we are in discussion with the UNHCR. We did have one in Asia, but that was a bit complicated due to the approvals that have just been mentioned that can be very complex with the government. So we're exploring other options. Indeed, as you mentioned, Zamir, on the 17th of September, about just 2 weeks ago, we did have a webinar that Israel quickly and kindly put together for us and presented to the entire operations team of including our regional administrative officers in the different offices across the world, and which has been very, very helpful. So far, we've had very good experience. We're truly grateful, and we will keep coming because there's still some more discussion. So we continue to send our colleagues to you. We've really appreciated the coordination, the very swift response we get, and the journey. I appreciate that your colleagues on your end are working with each of these resident coordinator offices hand in hand, almost hand holding them through the entire process. Thank you. Back to you, Zamir.
Thank you, Ani, and it's always good to hear from a client agency for these services. Even within DCO, we said kind of like we are neutral to this. So